guys, welcome back to my channel. Today we've got another video of a yard inspiration for a villager, and today's villager is Clay. This was requested by a comment, so if you guys have any villagers that you'd like me to do, then comment down below. I do listen and I will take it on board. So I came back to visit Clay so you could see his house, because I wanted to get an idea of what he was like, because I've never had him before. And I think he's pretty cool. I think a lot of people don't like him, but I think he's really unique and I love the blue in his ears. So yeah, I'm just gonna get started. We're gonna go in with some mush parasols. I wanted to do this one really kind of mush inspired, and to really kind of capture the type of villager that Clay is and what he likes. So I went in with, as I said, the mush parasols, some custom codes, and some leaf piles. Any custom codes that I use that I already have, you can find on my custom codes video that I released after I did my island tour, and any codes that I download purely for a build that I'm doing here, I will include in the video so you can get the custom code. So yeah, I'm using these wooden tables and the end table there, the low table, with some different items on, and I've gone for like a sort of clay aesthetic. So it's gonna be lots of building clay and little stations for pottery and things like that. So, and then here I'm just making a little fishing spot and a little place where he can dry his clothes, and because he loves bugs, I put in a couple of bugs and made a nice little area over here where he could chill out after he's done making some pottery in the afternoon. So I went in with a puddle custom code there with a little decoy duck, and then I went back over here to put a few more items in. So I'm using some of the modelling clay in different customizations, a classic pitcher and a pot, and I've just put a brick oven in the back here, so it would look like that's where he's baking the clay, and a little workbench next to that. And then I went back in to see where I could put these mush parasols and where they would work. So yeah, I think the biggest one is just playing around with different items and seeing what's going to work and seeing what adds depth and looks the best, and just play around with things and develop them until you get an idea that you like. So yeah, here I've gone in with the dirt path from just the in-game paths, and then another custom code of clovers, and I added in the sideways pirate barrel over there, and now I'm going in and just adding in a couple of butterflies and things like that, just to keep in with his personality and the fact that he likes bugs. I put in the mum's plushie there, mainly just because it went with the colour aesthetic, and the tiny library as well, because I think it's super cute. And I also love using the little T-Rexes when they fit in with the colour, because I think they're really, really adorable, and I just love seeing them in builds. So yeah, I'm just sprucing the place up with some flowers now. I do really love adding flowers in. I try and dot them around just to fill in any gaps and to hide certain things on items, such as the stand of the bugs. So yeah, this one's finished, and I will go ahead and show you some pictures. So for the second design, I'm just going to start with mapping out a space for a farm. I always try and do a little farm build, because I really like seeing what type of farms you could do for each character. So I'm going in with both of the dirt paths in the different colours just from the in-game paths, so I can plant flowers and things like that, and then just using the barbed wire fence and the country fence as well to go around it. I really do like mixing up my fences. I think it adds a lot to a build, and it makes it a lot more interesting, and there's a lot more to look at, and it adds more heights as well. So I'm just going in with different mushrooms and pumpkins, so I'm keeping this one very warm coloured to match Clay's aesthetic. So I'm keeping it sort of to yellows and oranges and browns and things like that. So I'm using a variety of items here, so it's not just the same items over and over again. Again, it just kind of adds a bit more to the build, and it gives more to look at. And when you're taking pictures, it just makes it so much more interesting, because you could sit and look at it for so much longer, trying to spot all the different items in it. So I'm using some custom codes there, and the light dirt path to lead up to his house, and then using some mush parasols in the back here in different colours. Again, just keeping in with that sort of warm tones of the build. There I've placed a tree's bounty lamp on top of the mush log. I think that looks really, really cute, and I really like the mush log. I think it just looks great in all sorts of cottagecore or nature themed islands. I think it's really, really sweet. It's definitely one of my favourite items, I think, to decorate with actually. So yeah, as you can see, I'm going in here with some of the spooky lanterns in yellow and orange in the farm, and some leaf piles leading up to Clay's house as well. And then I'm adding in a brick well, because this build doesn't have a water source, and I think that a farm should always have a water source, so he can have a well. I also think the brick well looks super cute with Clay's aesthetic. Yeah, I added in a little puddle there, so maybe it looks like he's spilt the water and just hasn't got round to cleaning it back up yet. And just adding in some more custom codes of mushrooms and clovers and things like that. And then linking up the path on the other side as well. That's a throwback mitt chair. I really, really like that chair. I think it looks so cute, and I'm really glad that the colour matched really well. And then I'm using things like the Rover's briefcase and the hyacinth lamps as well. Again, just sort of keeping in with that sort of warm-toned, mush, cottagecore aesthetic. So I'm going in with some flowers now, and I'm putting some flowers in the farm as well, because I think it looks really cute, and again it just adds a bit more going on. And I'm using a mixture of all sorts of warm toned flowers, and I'm using sort of oranges and reds in any of the flower species. And then that is the mush umbrella that I'm putting there, and adding in some lamps as well. And now I think it's successfully filled every space, and I will show you some pictures. As you can see, I've also put the garden wagon and one of the gnomes at the back as well, and I really like that because, as you can see, it just adds in a bit more of a height difference between the items and creates a bit more going on. So we'll move on to the next design now. So we're going to start off with a wooden path, and we're just going to map out an area here so we can begin working on the design. I decided that I didn't want wood at all and decided to go in with terracotta instead, because I wanted it to really sort of fit clay, and I was going for a specific sort of style, and the wood just wasn't working particularly well. So I'm just rounding off the corners now and expanding it a little bit where it needs it. Now I'm just going in with this fence, because again it's warm toned and fits with Clay's aesthetic in my opinion, and I'm just putting it to the sides there as well. I'm adding in a couple of stalls here because I wanted to do a design where it was sort of like Clay had his own pottery shop and he was selling all of his lovely things that he's made out of clay. So I just used the in-game designs that you can get from the Able Sisters for the stall designs, and I just chose warm colours that I thought fit with clay, and then I just placed a variety of matching coloured and items that would fit in with that in front of it, such as the street organ and the pitcher and the jug and things like that, as well as a red garden gnome and some of the clay and an unglazed dish set as well. And now I'm just adding in some terracotta here so I can place down a brick oven in the back, and this was quite a tight space to decorate, so I just played around with where the items could go and push them around so everything was still accessible and you could walk around everything, but it would still kind of make sense. And I wanted it to look like clay would work outdoors as well, and I just wanted to make it kind of a busy area that told a bit of a story. So in the back here, I'm just going to make sort of like a little kind of chill out and cafe area. So this part's quite cozy, again quite warm, and I've used the wooden path there instead. I placed that sink there because he should have a little sink outdoors because he'll need to clean a lot. And I used just a warm toned tea cozy on top of that, iron garden chair and table in brown. And I decided I wanted to make this sort of like an art cafe to kind of fit in with the creative theme that it's got going on because of the sort of clay studio. So I placed some different artworks around that were in different sizes and shapes. I wasn't the biggest fan of the way they ended up being positioned, but it's just kind of how the easels work, so I just kind of went with it. And then I'm just adding in some more items and making this a bit busier, while of course still making it perfectly accessible. So I'm expanding this now, so I have a bit more room to add in more items and still be able to walk around everything. So I'm just going to extend the fence here, so it's all closed off and it looks a bit more kind of appropriate. And then again, just kind of filling out some more of these corners and things like that. And then I'm just going to add some custom codes around so it's not so bare. So again, I'm just using a mix of sort of little flowers and clovers here, and there are hundreds and hundreds of these sort of designs that you can find either on Twitter or Pinterest, or even just in the portal itself in the game. That's where I found a lot of my codes when I first started, before I'd even kind of looked online for anything. So yeah, I fleshed that out with the stone path as well to create a walkway and to link the areas together. And now I'm just decorating some of the outlying areas as well, just to give the build a bit more depth and to make it a bit more cluttered so there's a lot to look at. So again, I'm just going to go ahead and show you some pictures of this build now. I hope you liked it. I really like this one. I had a lot of fun doing this one. I always like trying to find a little way to give my villager like a little career, or you know, really kind of maximizing on their hobbies and their personality and things like that, because the game does lack a lot of villager personality in my opinion. Especially, I haven't played any of the other games, but after I looked it up and I realized how much personality the villagers had in previous games, I felt really disappointed by the villagers that I'd met. I remember getting up one morning and jumping on my game, and 3 of my villagers said the exact same thing to me, and it just felt so repetitive. So I love trying to bring a bit more personality into the villager, even if it is just by their exterior kind of garden area. So moving on now, we're going to start with the brick path. I don't do a lot with the brick path, so I wanted to kind of experiment and see how it would look for this build. Mary's just hanging about. She loves popping in. I think she tries to get in almost every video that I do that's on my island. I think it's probably because she lives next door, but I like to think it's also because she's peppy. So I'm just kind of experimenting with the fence and seeing what's going to work here for a wall or anything like that. As you can see, I wasn't the biggest fan of the brick, so I changed it and I tried this fence instead, and then tried to see what it would look like if I was to break it up with bushes or hedges and things like that. And then I kept changing it around. I think I'd given myself sort of an awkward proportioned area to work with, where the fence just wasn't really looking good when I was trying to match it up with things. But anyway, so I went in with the iron garden chair in brown and the table. And then I jumped over here so I could work on this area as well, because I'm kind of a whirlwind builder. Like, I'll just kind of shoot between different areas of a build and just kind of look at the items I've got and run back to my house and get more and things like that, rather than just focusing on one area methodically. So I wanted to make this build feel a bit more modern, so I was playing around with how I could do that but still make it fit with Clay, because he doesn't strike me as a particularly sort of city core villager or anything like that, because of his aesthetic and his personality and things. So I kind of struggled, but so I was mainly just trying to find aesthetic items that kind of fit his colour and things like that, and fit the outdoor of his house. So I was just working on this area here and seeing what I could come up with. So I was just positioning these items such as the snack machine, the drinks machine and the phone box. And then I went back into his garden and was placing some plants around. And then I went up to work on this area. So I kind of wanted to make it look a bit more kind of city-like, so I tried to add in some items in the background that would link it together a bit more once the build is finished. So I had the cotton candy stall in like this black and orange, and I had the yellow phone box as well, and I placed some pagodas and utility poles, and just to the far left there is just bookshelves placed backwards, just to kind of fence it off a bit so you can't see that other building so much in the back. And then I went in with the same fence here and mapped that out a bit more, and then just kind of brought that path down from Clay's house and smoothed it off. And then I used terracotta to make the path that would link up to the rest of my island as well. I kind of imagined this as quite like a warm city, so I kind of envisioned things like Tenerife and things like that while I was building it, rather than like a traditional kind of city like New York or London or anything like that. So I tried to see what I could do so it would still fit in with Clay, but as I said, you know, I wasn't so sure on the more city side of builds, but I tried my best and hopefully you like it and can take something away from it anyway. So yeah, I just made these sort of flower areas either side of the house, and they're not even. I kind of like mismatched builds where not everything's perfectly symmetrical. I don't think I barely ever build anything that has any sort of symmetry in it. I quite like everything to be a bit higgledy-piggledy. So yeah, I went back to work on his house area a bit more because this area was rather empty compared to everywhere else. It was looking rather busy at this point. So I was just playing around with where these items could be placed, that it could still be accessible, but it would make the build a bit busier with a bit more going on. So that's a classic picture on a table over there and a couple of plants, and I tried to see if I could put another table here and it could still be accessible, and that's just a mini cactus set on there. So I felt suitably happy that everything felt a bit busier and there was balance throughout the build, so I will go ahead and show you some pictures of this one. So we're just going to move on to the last design now. So I'm just going to clear up this area and work out where I can put some trees. So I chose some different fruit trees for this build. I went with peaches. So I'm just going to clear up the land here and then add in some pathways. So for this one I went in with a custom code. Again, as I said earlier, you can catch this on the custom code video I did for my island. So I really like this one. It's just like some simple planks, and I got it in a vertical and a horizontal one. And basically for this build I had a specific idea, and I really wanted to show off his sort of laziness, so I went with a very sort of calm and peaceful and sleepy build for this one, hence why I've used tents. So I'm going to use a lot of sort of homely items in this, so the stacks of books and the mum's candles and things like that, and I'm going to keep the colours quite warm again. So I've added in the tiny library over there, and I'm going to use a brick well over here and put this wooden bucket on this little patch of stone, and then add in a puddle next to it, and then kind of just dash around between the areas and playing around with different items. So I was just choosing a model of butterfly for over here, or some different bugs that I could use. I realised I couldn't place it on top of another bug as the tree would hide it, so I just took it down. And then over near his house I'm adding in the bird bath and a little wheelbarrow. And then I'm just going to place a go board over here so he can crawl out of his little tent and stargaze and use the Go board, and I've just used log stools here, adding in some hyacinth lamps in the yellow/orange, and just adding in a few flowers to hide the models and to add in a bit more colour. And I also like to use a lot of flowers in a lazy villager's garden, because if you kind of just dot them around a lot, it looks a bit unkempt, a bit wild, so it kind of just emphasizes their lazy nature, that they haven't got around to the gardening yet and things like that. I always like to try and capture their personality and tell a bit of a story with a build. So again, as normal, I'm just going in with some more custom codes, just using the same ones from the other videos. And I'm placing down a couple of doll houses because this one had sort of like a warm toned fairy core style to me, so I'm just kind of switching up some of these designs at the back to kind of fit in with that aesthetic. I'm not spending too much time on the background because if you've watched any of my videos, I've said that I'm just using this area to rotate villages to do these videos for you guys and things like that, so I don't spend too much time on the background areas. So I've just used the mum's plushie, and I'm placing this throwback mitt chair because it's really cute, and I really like getting the chance to use it because a lot of villages it doesn't really fit with the aesthetic, so I really enjoy it. So again, I'm just adding in some more paths to link everything up together, and finalising some ideas and putting in the last of the items and things like that. I tried to keep the butterfly models fitting in with his colour scheme as well, and then I grabbed a couple more flowers and planted them down. And now I'll go ahead and show you pictures of the last one. I really hope that you liked these ideas, and I hope that they can inspire you in some way if you have clay or a villager that fits with the aesthetic or anything else like that. As I said earlier, let me know in the comments if there's a villager that you'd like to see me do, or any other videos that you'd like to see from me, because I really do listen to the comments and I would love feedback from you guys. And if you like this video and would like to see more of my content, then like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next video. Thanks very much for watching. Bye guys.